The drop pod screamed through the atmosphere of Thesha like a meteor with a grudge. Inside, Staff Sergeant Daniel Rodriguez gripped his harness as the world outside turned from black to orange to green in a matter of seconds. His heads-up display showed 12 seconds to impact. 12 seconds until his boots hit alien soil and the real work began. "Sound off," he barked into the comm. "Reynolds ready. Garcia locked and loaded. Bishop ready to dance. Thompson here, let's do this." Rodriguez allowed himself a grim smile. His team, 1st Squad, 3rd Platoon, 82nd Orbital Drop Division, had done this dance 100 times before, just never for a species as fragile as the Varani. The Varani were explorers, philosophers, artists. They'd been humanity's friends for 15 years, ever since first contact had been established near the Andromeda Relay. They taught humans about the greater galactic community, shared their music and poetry, opened trade routes that had enriched both civilizations. What the Varani didn't have was an army. They didn't understand war. Their world had unified 3,000 years ago, and they'd spent the millennia since reaching for the stars with open hands instead of clenched fists. The Kresnik Syndicate understood war just fine. The drop pod slammed into the ground with enough force to shatter concrete. Rodriguez felt his teeth rattle even through the shock-absorbing gel that cushioned his combat suit. The pod sides blew outward in a shower of explosive bolts, and suddenly he was breathing Theshan air. It was thick with some kind of pollen that made his sensors flash yellow warnings. He ignored them. 300 meters northeast, the Varani settlement of calm waters was burning. "Spread out. Standard search and destroy pattern," Rodriguez commanded, his rifle already up and sweeping the tree line. The forest here was something from a fever dream, purple trunks the width of houses, canopy so thick it turned midday into twilight. "Remember, Varani are civilians. Kresnik are hostiles. Visual confirmation before you fire." "What if they're mixed together?" Reynolds asked, his voice tight. "Then you get creative." They moved through the forest like ghosts, or at least as ghost-like as 5 heavily armed humans in powered combat armor could manage. Rodriguez's suit read the terrain, mapped patrol routes, and fed him tactical data faster than his conscious mind could process. The Kresnik had landed 4 transports an hour ago, raiders looking for easy pickings. Tech, resources, hostages. The Varani settlement had sent out a desperate FTL comm burst before their transmitter was destroyed. The Commonwealth had sent the 82nd. I saw them first through my thermal scope. Kresnik warriors, if you could call them that. Pirates was more accurate. They stood maybe 5 feet tall, covered in chitinous plates that rattled when they moved, carrying weapons that were 50% scrap metal and 50% war crime. 3 of them were dragging a Varani female toward one of their transports. Her blue skin was torn, her large eyes wide with terror. "I have eyes on hostiles, 3 contacts, 1 Varani hostage," I reported, my voice flat and professional despite the anger that made my jaw ache. "Permission to engage." "Granted," Lieutenant Hayes crackled in my ear from orbit. "Weapons-free Staff Sergeant. Show them why you don't touch our friends." I didn't need to be told twice. The first Kresnik died before his brain could register the sound of my rifle. The second managed to turn halfway before Reynolds put 3 rounds through his center mass. The third was faster. He dropped the Varani and grabbed for his weapon, and for a moment I thought he might actually get a shot off. Bishop appeared from the tree line like a vengeful spirit and took the raider's head off with a combat knife the size of a forearm. "Hostage secure," Bishop reported, already scanning the perimeter. The Varani female was trembling, her 4 arms wrapped around herself. She looked up at Rodriguez with eyes that held both terror and hope. She'd probably never seen a human in full combat gear before. 7 feet of armored death, wrapped in matte black composite, and bristling, with enough firepower to level a building. In 90 seconds, it was over. Rodriguez stood in the center of the pavilion, his rifle still hot, surrounded by the bodies of raiders who'd made the fatal mistake of thinking the Varani were easy prey. The Varani hostages stared at him with a mixture of awe and fear. He couldn't blame them. Humanity had always been good at violence. It was what they'd done with that talent that defined them. "Hostages secure, command post neutralized," Rodriguez reported. "Beginning sweep for remaining hostiles." "Copy that, Sergeant. Additional drop pods are incoming, along with Commonwealth peacekeepers. You've got medical en route for the Varani." "Acknowledged." They found the last of the Kresnik trying to reach their transports. Some surrendered immediately when they saw the humans coming. Others tried to fight. Those ones didn't make it. By the time the sun set over Thesha, the Kresnik Syndicate's raiding party had been completely eliminated. 73 confirmed kills, 12 prisoners for Commonwealth justice. 0 human casualties. 3 Varani dead, 17 wounded. It was 17 too many as far as Rodriguez was concerned. He found the settlement elder that evening, an ancient Varani named Song of Distant Stars, who moved slowly despite his people's natural grace. The elder's blue skin was darker with age, his eyes carrying the weight of wisdom. "Thank you," Song of Distant Stars said in perfect English. "Without your intervention, we would have been destroyed. The Kresnik would have taken everything. How can we ever repay this debt?" Rodriguez removed his helmet, letting the elder see his face. "Human, young, tired. No debt," he said. "That's what friends do. You've given humanity so much art, culture, knowledge. The least we can do is make sure you're safe to keep sharing it." The elder was quiet for a long moment, studying Rodriguez's face. "Your species confuses us sometimes," he admitted. "You can be so gentle, so creative, so filled with wonder at the universe. And yet," he gestured at the battlefield being cleaned up around them, "you contain such capacity for violence." "Yeah," Rodriguez said. He'd thought about this before, during long watches on transport ships between deployments. Earth was hard on us, made us dangerous, but it also taught us that the dangerous things in the universe aren't always the bad guys. Sometimes the wolves protect the flock. He met the elder's eyes. "The trick is remembering which one you are." The elder nodded slowly, understanding blooming in his ancient eyes. "Then we are fortunate that humanity remembers, that when you reached the stars, you chose to bare your teeth for others rather than at them." "Most of the time," Rodriguez said with a slight smile. "We're still figuring this out as we go." 2 days later, Rodriguez and his team loaded back into their dropship, bound for orbit and the next crisis. The Varani had already begun rebuilding calm waters. They'd also begun composing a song about the battle. Humans, they'd learned, didn't just make art about the beautiful things. As the dropship climbed toward the black, Reynolds spoke up from his crash seat. "You think they'll remember this? Really remember it?" Rodriguez looked out the viewport at the planet shrinking below them, at the settlement where the Varani would continue their lives of peace and art and philosophy, protected now by the knowledge that they had friends who wouldn't let them fall. "They'll remember," he said. "They'll tell their children and their children's children about the day the humans came, about what it means to have friends who'll cross the stars to stand between you and the dark." "And if more raiders come?" Thompson asked. Rodriguez checked his rifle, began the ritual of maintenance that every soldier knew by heart. "Then we come back. That's the deal. We don't abandon our friends." Bishop laughed, that rough sound that meant he was pleased. "Damn right we don't." The dropship broke atmosphere and the stars surrounded them, cold and infinite, and filled with wonders and dangers in equal measure. Somewhere out there, other species were learning what humanity had always known, that the gentlest souls often require the fiercest guardians. Rodriguez leaned back in his crash seat and closed his eyes, the familiar hum of the engines a lullaby he'd heard 1,000 times before. Behind his closed lids, he could still see the Varani elder's face, grateful, confused, but most importantly, alive. That was what mattered. Not the body count, not the medals they'd probably pin on his chest when they got back to command. Just that the people who made beautiful things, who sang and created and wondered at the universe, got to keep doing that, because someone had to stand in the dark places. Someone had to be willing to get their hands bloody so others could keep theirs clean. It wasn't glamorous work, and it sure as hell wasn't fair that Earth had made humans so good at it. But it was necessary work, and humanity had always been good at doing what was necessary. "Hey, Sergeant," Bishop said from across the bay, his voice cutting through Rodriguez's thoughts. "You think we'll ever run out of bad guys who need killing?" Rodriguez opened his eyes and looked at his team. These 4 men who'd followed him into hell without hesitation, who'd trust him with their lives tomorrow just like they had today. Brothers in every way that mattered. "Probably not," he said honestly. "Universe is a big place, always going to be someone who thinks being strong means taking from the weak. Good thing we're around to teach them different," Reynolds said. "Yeah," Rodriguez agreed, and felt something settle in his chest. Peace, maybe. Or just acceptance of what he was, what they all were. Guardians. Wolves. Deathworlders who'd chosen to use their teeth to protect the flock instead of hunting it. The stars streamed past the viewports, indifferent to the small dramas of mortal beings. But somewhere on Thesha, the Varani were rebuilding. Somewhere in the galaxy, other peaceful species slept a little easier knowing that humanity kept watch. And somewhere in the black between stars, the 82nd Orbital Drop Division carried on, ready for the next call, the next desperate plea for help. ready to drop into hell and drag someone back out. Rodriguez smiled to himself as the drop ship docked with the carrier, as the bay doors opened and reality rushed back in, debriefs and maintenance, and all the mundane tasks that filled the spaces between combat. But he'd carry this with him, this moment of clarity, this understanding of what it meant to be human in a universe that hadn't quite expected them. They were the answer to a question no one had asked. What happens when you take a species forged in fire, teach them compassion, and set them loose among the stars? The answer, as the Kresnik had learned today, was written in the names of those who wouldn't, couldn't, stand by while evil did its work. The universe was still learning that lesson, and humanity was patient when it came to teaching. The sharpest blade is the one kept sheathed until friends bleed, for a protector's mercy is worth nothing without the fangs to enforce it.